In this session we're going to pick up from where we left off from the previous one, where we're up to the point where we're defining the problem. We've actually started our internal documentation. We've rolled 2 dice and stored them in global variables. We've calculated the difference and stored that in the difference variable. And now what we need to do is start tracking the different dice. Now there is a little matrix that we need to be aware of. And so what we'll do, we'll put some comments in here. If the difference is equal to 5, this is a 6, or this, if it's 5, this is 6 runs. If the difference is 4, then it's going to be 4 runs. If the difference is 3, then 3 runs. And it goes down to 2. And then the last one, if the difference is 1, they will get 1 run. The other one we need to track, and this is probably the more important one, is that if the difference is 0. If the difference is 0, they're out. And if the difference is greater or is less than and equal to -1, then it's a dot ball. So that's what we're looking at, and we need to sort of code this into a structure. So I'll just end my comment. So what we need to do is use some sort of decision structure. We can use an if-then-else statement, nested if-then-else statement. We could do it through a case statement. So what I'm going to decide to do is I'm going to use a case statement, or what's known as a switch condition. So to set up the switch decision, we need to actually switch, and then we need to actually use the variable. In this case here, n difference holds the number that we need to look at, or what we need to use in our switch condition. Now once we've done that, we can then start our case statement. And we can actually look at going, well, case, in this case the condition, so we'll case the test, so the condition 1, so case it is a 1, we can then use the double dot, which represents like a then. So case it is a 1, then we can probably trace 1. And then once we've done that, we need to also use a break command. And what that will do, that allows us to leave the structure. So if this is true, it then does this, and then break, so it jumps outside this curly bracket here and continues on. And the break command is really important, because what we need to then do is say, well, if a case is a 2, we then want to trace 2. And then we need a break command after that. And you notice that this is going to get very repetitive, because as you can see, we've got to go through. And I'm working my way up. So what I want to do at the moment is I'm going to just take the first one, and I'm just going to paste this a couple of times. And you notice I've done that, and if I use this little command here, it'll actually straighten the case statement up for me. So case it's 1, trace 1. Case it's 2, trace 2. Case it's 3, trace 3. Case it's 4, trace 4. Case it's 5, we're going to trace 6, because it will be 6 runs. So if we wanted to, we can actually put runs after it, etc. But because we're going to do a text output, I'm going to put run, 1 run, 2 runs, 3 runs. If I don't put them in quotes, then it's going to be looking for a variable for. 4 runs, 6 runs. Now what I want to do is also look at, well, I said before there's a dot ball. In a case statement there's also what's called default. What that means, if it gets through this case statement, gets all the way down here, we can actually use a default, and I can actually trace out dot ball and put a few dots as well. And once again I can straighten my code up and it puts it nicely in there for me. Now at the moment I'm tracking everything, but I'm not tracking if the difference is 0 at the moment, and we'll come back to that. What I want to see if this structure is working. As you can see now, the batting dice is 5, the bowling dice is 1. There is a difference of 4, and it's 4 runs. Difference is 3 runs. Okay, we now have a 0. And that's a dot ball, and we need to look at that and turn that into an out. 3 runs again, 1 run. -5 gives us a dot ball. So our decision structure is working quite well. But the one that I want to focus on when I head back up through our list is this one here. When we roll a double. When you roll a double, we want the batter to be out. Now we know that there are 11 batters in a team, and when the 10th person is out, then that side's out. So what we need to do now is start finding out when we have 10 people out. So let's do that. Let's get one person out. To do that, I need to actually have a variable, and I'm going to use integer this time, and actually say outs. Now, this will track the number of outs. When I start my program, I need to also start initializing. And what I need to do is set outs is equal to 0. This way, when the program starts, outs is 0, so there's no one out at the moment, and therefore when someone gets out, I can actually add 1 to this counter. So what I want to do after I run my case statement, I want to trace number of outs equals, and then I can actually add on there outs. So when this program first runs, we're not incrementing outs at all anywhere at the moment. We've set it to 0, so number of outs should come up as 0. So let's run the program, and so far we have the number of outs as 0. So as we go through, and I'll just run this again, and we'll get a difference of 0 hopefully. There, the number of outs is still 0. We haven't incremented this. So what I want to do now is increment the number of outs. To do this, we have to have a look at our case statement, because our case statement is like a big decision structure. I always do it in order, so I always have them in a ranked order. So I will go case, the difference is 0, and then I can then trace I can just go out. And what I might do is make it look a little bit more fancy and just go out. That way when it comes up, I can see it clearly. Now also in a case statement, I can have more than one line of code in here. I can then go outs equals outs plus 1, and that will increment, add 1 to outs and store it in outs before I go to my break tag. And I'll just straighten my code up. The other way of incrementing, there's 3 different ways we can do it. I can actually go outs plus equals 1. This will also increment outs by 1. What this is a little command that says itself plus 1, like the one above. The third way you can do it is outs plus plus. So there are 3 different ways of incrementing outs by 1. This plus plus will always go up by 1. This adds 1 to what is already stored in outs. This adds 1 to outs and then stores it back in outs. I'm just going to use the original top one and just comment these 2 out for later. Well, not that we're going to use them, but they're just examples there. So now outs should increase when the difference is 0. So rather than getting dot ball, we actually should see the number of outs move to 1, and rather than saying dot ball there, it should actually say to us out with the stars. So let's run the program now. Number of outs is 0. Let's keep going. The difference is 5, and they got 6 runs. Dot ball, dot ball. There we go, we've got an out. A 6 and a 6, the difference is 0. It's showing us the outs, and the number of outs now is 1, where before the number of outs were coming up as 0. So our case statement now is working and giving us the number of outs that we require, and we're incrementing those outs. What we need to look at in the next session is how do we go about looping this program now. I've got my global variables, I've got my initialization of global variables. When I'm making my loop, if I just put a comment in here for you, the loop needs to run from here down through the decision structure to here. Now, how you loop that's completely up to you. There's a way of doing it with a for-do loop, which is a fixed loop. There's a way of doing it with a pre-test loop, which is a while loop. We can also do it with a post-test loop, where we do and while, or do until. So there are 3 different ways we can loop this program, so it keeps rolling the dice. But you got to remember, the condition is we want to roll the dice until the number of outs is equal to 10. Once the number of outs has hit 10, the side's out. So I hope this has helped you move through the project.